Hey, boys and girls, and thank you for logging on for Ready Player One, the movie.
Yep.
Welcome, everyone.
Do you think? Well, what did you think of the movie? Anybody read the book? Me, I've read it multiple
I
times.
haven't read the book at all.
No, so it's only me. I'm the only book worm here, as it were. And when I say the word read, I mean somebody read it to me. I've got it in Audible. So,
It's still
potato,
Yeah.
or is it potato orange? Either way, I've got it in Audible. So, and I had never heard of the author until I read this book, and it's his second book. His other book is called. It's the same idea. It's about a computer game.
Did we lose PJ?
I think your sound is gone, PJ.
Hold on.
Oh, there he
You're
is.
back now. You're back now.
Was there a buzz?
Yeah.
Maybe it was the buzz. It was actually going. But this is his second book. I read Ready Player One first, then I read his second book. But this book, I read it, and then I read his other book, and his other book's not as good. So if I'd read that first, I don't know if I'd have read Ready Player One. But when I read Ready Player One, or had it read to me, I loved it. It became my favourite book, and I listened to it 7 times in the first year. I liked it that much. Will Wheaton reads it, and considering even though he's a diddy, he just seemed to get right into it. He definitely just seemed to be geeking out. It covers the genre. It covers the year. It was probably best for me because it was the 80s. So in the 80s, I was going between 15 to about 25. So 90% of the stuff in the book, I had either watched, read, or listened to. But I watched and read, I suppose, because the music, I know what the music he was talking about in the book. And so I knew about the music, but because I don't really care about enough about music, it didn't bother me. But I was aware of so about 90% of the stuff in the book, I was familiar with. So when he was in the book, it was talking about the lists and this thing and that thing. I was going, yep, I know that one. I've read that. I've listened to that. I've watched that. It's that type of thing. And within the book, and when we were talking about making that movie, I was thinking, I wonder. Then I thought, no, they can't do this, they can't do that. And then I heard the rumours starting, and that's when it was starting to go. It's not as bad as Wheel of Time, the adaptation. Nowhere near as bad as how they destroyed
case,
it.
you have the film and the book literally side by side.
Yeah.
As Wheel of Time, everything is just out.
Yeah. Well, this one, what they did was they got the author to adapt it for the screenplay. And I knew they would be cutting certain things out, but unfortunately, they cannibalized it. They kept the very basic of the story, and everything else changed. So they kept the characters, they kept the basic story, but like for instance, there's 3 keys, correct? But there's 3 keys and 3 gates in the book. And the gates are as important as getting the key. So you have to get the key, which gives you a clue to the gate. Then you have to complete the gate to get the clue for the next key. So it's all clues, and it's basically they work through things. So like the first clue, and the first thing, like the race, as soon as I knew the first thing was going to be the race, I thought, they've messed it up already. Because in the book, it was a Dungeons and Dragons level they had to do. And that would have been so good because it was the Tomb of Horrors, one of the early Dungeons and Dragons. I've never played the Tomb of Horrors, but I wanted to see a Dungeons and Dragons thing. But as soon as they did the race, I thought, well, whoever's going to first complete the race, everybody else is going to see it. So it was.
The trouble is also playing the Dungeons and Dragons sequence out, understanding the rules.
Yes.
That
the thing is, in the book they explain a lot of the stuff, and it is a lot better.
Yeah.
Colin's neither read it nor watched
Hiya,
it.
Archer Colin. And hiya, John. Thanks
Aye.
very much.
Yes.
I've gone Cindy Lauper pink.
Whereas I've gone Halliday Space Invaders. If you have seen the movie, this is the last episode. He's sitting about with his shirt over the top of his Space Invaders t-shirt. Believe it or not, it's the same Space Invaders t-shirt, and this wasn't around in
That
the
is
80s
so
yet.
cool.
He's meant to be so into the 80s. 80s was his genre, so in the movie, they changed a lot of it. I would
And
definitely
in the movie,
recommend
they
the book.
pushed it quite forward into the future. So I'm struggling understanding the stretch of the timeline, because it's supposed to be an homage and nod to the early days of Atari, the early times of the 80s, where computers and games and geek culture and everything started blossoming up.
Yes.
And then they push it quite far into the future.
Into
So
the
this creator
Yeah.
must have been really old.
1945 is when it's set, but it talks about him designing it 20 years early. So it's 1925 roughly. He's designing it, right? So if he's designing it in 1925 and it's referring back to the 80s when he was a kid. So see, let's see. Shush.
Oh, somebody's
So
it's on.
let's say he was born in 70. So he would have been between 10 and 20, or even 72 or 73. So he would have been about 8 to about 18. So that would have been his formative years for geeking out, right?
Yeah.
So if he was born in the 70s, mid 70s, early 70s, so by the time it was the 2025 when he launched the game, you're talking about he would be 60. No, sorry, 50, roughly. He'd be 51 or 52. So I was born in 65, so I'm 57 just now. 3 years' time, I would be 60. If he was born 8 years after me, he'd be 8 years younger, so he'd be 52, 53. So he'd be early 50s when he designed the game, and then he would be in 70s when he died. So it works that way. So in the book, they talk about how all these gunters start talking to their grandparents about their lives in the 80s. So it works. It's all about an older man who designed the game and he was right into it and they left Easter eggs. And then these people had to relearn all this stuff. And that's when they talk to their grandparents and their parents to get more information about the 80s and things that they can't read about, they can't watch, because everything's online now, so they can download all the comics, all the movies, all the TV shows, and just watch them. And
But it
that's what
comes with the understanding of it. That's why
Yeah.
they need the.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the book's all about how Halliday was so focused. That was his favourite years, so he had an affinity with it, and that's why everybody learned about Halliday in the 80s, because his Easter egg hunt was what they were looking for,
Yeah.
and that's what it was all about. So the time frame sort of works with that because it's all about what age he was in the 80s. So they couldn't have gone like 21 something or other because it wouldn't have worked. They couldn't make it. They could make it in the 2020s. It would sort of work, but then again, there'd be people like me who are still into that genre, that it's not something unusual. So they
Yeah,
take it to the next generation up, where it's the grandparents who would have been about
I'm
that
not
time.
saying that the time stretch is impossible. It's just that it's literally going as far back as you could, because I think
Yeah.
it's set in 2045. So say that he died.
2045.
Say that he died 5 years earlier, so 2040. So they've been hunting for 5 years. I think they mentioned how
That's
long they've been
roughly
hunting
what
for.
they're talking about. Yes.
Yeah. So if he was born 70, like you said, he would have been 70 years old.
Yes, and that's what I'm saying. It works because in the book they're talking about him, and then the hunters or the gunters, egg hunters, gunter,
Yeah.
are looking for the eggs, and so they're going right into the 80s.
Yep.
They are learning everything about Halliday and his favourite time of all the programs he watched and liked. And that's when people were talking about, they would talk about to their grandparents who lived through that time to get a bit more information. So it brought the two generations together. So the book explains it a lot more, which is standard. The book does give you a lot more information.
Yeah.
You wouldn't expect a lot of that information out there just because. However, when they slash it down, and Parzival the book's all about Parzival. Aech and Artemis and Irok's only in it about that much in the book. They expanded his character, but Aech is actually a hell of a lot better in the book. Aech is a coloured woman who plays as a white guy because her mum or dad, when they were growing up, and she introduced, basically says, "Listen, if people think you're a white man, you get you get better treated." However, what did they do in the TV show? Made the black women an orc. This is the people who tell us that orcs are referenced as black people in games. Yet they made a black woman an orc in a game. In the book, she's a white man, not just a male orc. It's absolutely fucking nuts. She is far superior in the book. She's smarter, better than everything. But the TV show, it's almost a bit.
So I'll dabbled a little bit trying to get into the book.
Artemis is a side love interest from Waithe, and he's the one that actually decides to bring IOI down by going inside. But they changed all that as well.
Yes.
So they basically started changing things, and the things they're changing was just for the sake of changing them, which annoyed me.
Yeah,
However,
I can imagine, but the overall part of it, when the film first brings you into the Oasis, that gave me flashback to the 80s, early 90s, when what you had was basically the IRC chat channels, the
Yes.
BBS messaging boards and everything.
Yeah.
You had your persona. People knew you by your persona or your username / handle.
YouTube nowadays, that is it. It's officially an extension of that type of thing. Hence the reason why everybody's got their login name. It's an extension of the message boards. You get known by it. So we are known by our tags online.
Yeah, to an extent. Back in the day, it was never so much like we have now with the whole doxing stuff and everything happening. And then when people find your real name, they insist on constantly using that rather than your persona or what it is that you put it up as presenting as, hey, this is what I do under this umbrella. This is where I go geeky and everything. Obviously, don't use this name when I go to work or present to businesses or anything like that. They think I'm crazy, or probably, well, since this is England, they run for the life.
It's basically that's my rant about the differences between the book and the movie. And as you can imagine, the book is one of my favourites. I listen to it numerous times. Once a year now, it's always on in my car. So if I've run out of things to watch, if I'm thinking, what will I go back to watch or listen to, I go back to Ready Player One.
And if anybody isn't familiar with the author's name, I'm just reading here, is Ernest Cline.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he actually did the screenplay. He was one of the writers in it as well.
Yes, Zach Penn and the original author from the looks of things. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. He also,
which is always nice to see.
Remember that movie I was telling about, Fanboys? He did he was the screenplay. He did the screenplay for it. So he did the story for Fanboys, which is the one, because I knew they couldn't do justice to the book, because in the book they mentioned all the different genres and stuff like that. And then when Steven Spielberg was on board, he had decided that his stuff was not going to be a big part of this movie. In the book, it is because during the 80s, Steven Spielberg name was all over the place because of
true.
the movies he did, and they were all 80s related. People grew up in the 80s watching Steven Spielberg movies, and he decided that he didn't want his movies to be a big part of it. So that sort of, I knew there were going to be issues initially because
Mm.
he didn't want to be brought on board to put all his movies out there. But it's all about the time frame, and he was a big part of the 80s, so cutting a lot of his stuff out didn't make sense. And also
Yeah.
in the book they talk about haptic rigs and stuff like that. So like Parzival, you see at the beginning, he goes in through the cars into this looks like a van, right? It just sort of happens. You don't notice it, but in the book it explains how he found that and how he keeps it a secret and stuff like that because of his family. But the stacks are a big thing about it. It describes why people get into the Oasis because of the famine and the
Yeah.
just things that are
Mm.
happening around you.
It's
In
like
that,
an escape.
it is escape. Whereas that he's got in his van from the beginning. You see him putting these haptic gloves on, and they just look like a pair of gloves with the bits on. Then he's got the floor space, which is actually the omnidirectional. In the book, he didn't start with that. He started with a bog standard seat. He found it's just like a deck chair type thing. He's got the gloves and the visor. That is it, and he's sitting on his computer terminal doing his haptic. He's doing his Johnny Mnemonic, that type of thing. So he didn't have all these suits and all that. He did that as he was that because he had nothing. He had no money. He was effectively using his rig that he got for school because he was only 15 or something like that. So he was still in school. He was just about to finish. So it's the school rig that he couldn't afford to upgrade. He was using, and it was literally just joined together. So he's got that and an old pair of gloves. So the fact that he's got in this van that he found and he's using as his secret base because he wants to be away from because all the stacks are overcrowded. He's got this, but he's got a rig with the floor part that you could run around in. That part made zero sense. And you saw the bit at the end where they're all fighting and the guy's running down the street as if they're thingy, and then it shows them on the game and they're all running uphill dressed as
Yeah.
what's
Hang on.
Halo, and they're all dressed as Halo, and you're sitting there thinking these people are. It does not make sense because they're effectively like us sitting in a chair with a rig on, and they're playing the game, but in effect they're saying you have to actually be physically doing all these things, and it just made zero sense. And that was the point. And then as he became more famous for winning getting the first key, even though he did find it first, he found the first key and people were trying to bribe him into giving him, and he started winning a bit of cash. Then he would purchase things in the Oasis to give him a real life. That's why he got the suit and all that. He basically rented himself a flat, got himself an alias, a second name, just so people couldn't find him. It
Yeah.
was all to do with that. The things in the Oasis he could do, as you saw with that. But it was just a case of the book. The story's a hell of a lot more detailed and fun. I would definitely recommend
I'm pretty
having a look
certain
at
it
it.
is, but something I think it plays, at least the film plays level field that is, I have an HR helmet. I've been fortunate enough to keep tabs on Microsoft's idea of augmented reality, which is basically Google Glass, which was a thing in 2010 somewhere,
I remember that. Yeah.
where you
Yeah.
hand glasses and you do get stuff. It is coming, and it will be different because there will be someone sitting on a
I played the
low-budget
3D
machine.
stuff with my nephews. Put it on, and there's the shark coming towards you. You go, "Huh?" Or else you're
Isn't
you're
this
leaning out and shooting behind you because you've got that.
Mm.
And yeah, I've played 3D games, and they are getting better. They're going to get to the point, but they're not never going to get to the point where the bog standard person's going to have a full haptic suit and a rig. They're going to sit where we are, like sitting in a desk in front of the computer with a rig and the thing, and they're basically when they're moving and running, it's a case of either a keyboard or a a switch they're flicking. So
Yeah,
they're running.
I only run by holding down shift.
Yes, but that's what I'm saying. It's that type of thing. So even with the 3D, they'll still have that. They're not going to be the haptic bit where the floor's omnidirectional. Because in the book, the only reason they get these big rigs is Og lets them use the rigs, apart from them buying full haptic suits with a rig that is sort of like the bit where they're all strapped in.
Floor and running around. That's
Mhm.
never going to be something that happens here in United Kingdom because
Of
our
course.
flats are tiny. There is
Yeah.
room.
But even you look at his, he starts off in this old van that. Where the hell did they get the money for the rig in the van that it's meant to be a secret hideout? It's things like that. It just didn't make sense. He didn't get that whole haptic rig until he'd made a bit of cash and managed to get himself a flat so he could get it delivered. So how could it get delivered to his secret hideout without his pissant uncle who would steal everything getting it? Because it basically said the uncle, he remember the phone, get out of the flat, get out of the flat. The uncle said, I like the new rig, thanks for the new rig. So he's effectively said he's ordered it once, his uncle nicked it, so he had to order it again. But you see him ordering it and he's got it in his van. Then the next minute you see the uncle saying thanks for the outfit, as if he's already bought it and his uncle's nicked it, so he's had to get it delivered somewhere else. It made zero sense. Whereas in the book, he basically doesn't get anything like that until he gets a bit of money behind him and he gets a flat of his own. Then he can start buying the bits and pieces he needs. And it's all to do with that. It's a lot better than the book. The book is just so much fun.
But the book also has time to expand on a lot.
Oh, yeah, I'm aware of
I
that.
will say the film is nicely paced.
That's true.
It is nicely paced.
Yeah, I thought
there
the
isn't
pacing
like
was good.
extended moments where it's like nothing happens. There's always either the digging, his journey, or you get the flashbacks to the creator and things like that. What happened in the past, how it was playing out. And even so, the film managed to kind of keep it a little bit of a secret toward the end, even though it gets kind of predictable.
Yeah. And Ernest Cline's first book was Armada. Basically, you're playing a space fighting game. Very similar idea.
Last Starfighter.
Very similar to the last Starfighter, but instead of it's more like he's done it in a similar vein. It's basically all these people playing in a multiplayer game, and there's certain things there's certain missions that are allowed to go on if they qualify, but they're only one-off missions. You can't rerun them, and it's all to do with there's actually a threat to Earth. It's all to do with that. It's like a bit like Pixels. Think more like Pixels, where so it's that I like that book as well, but it's not as detailed as Ready Player One, and it is. I think you can see it's his first one, completely separate, but a similar premise, a computer game that affects real life. Ready Player One, there's certain things in it. It's just a shame. I loved the book so much, and then the book movie came out, and I was disappointed in it because there was so much I understood they were going to have to cut because of time constraints and explaining and stuff like that. But when they cut it and change it, it's not the fact that they cut so much. It's the fact is they instead of saying, like for instance, I'll give you an example. In the book, the first key is won by completing a Dungeons and Dragons quest, right? You play the Dungeons and Dragons quest, so you can read it up online. And once you find it out, he reads it up online how to beat the quest. But the very final part, you're facing the Demi-Lich. But when you go to face the Demi-Lich, you're expecting a big fight, even though you're a low level because it's actually on the school planet because it's designed that anybody even without money can find it. And most people can start off in a school planet because they get a rig for nothing from the school environment, right? And when he goes to fight the Lich, it's not a fight. He plays a computer game against the Lich. And it's the computer game's called Joust. I can't remember ever playing Joust in the UK. I can't remember ever seeing Joust. I knew about it.
I remember
afterwards.
hearing about Joust. Yeah.
I remember playing it after the fact when I got the Spectrum, ZX Spectrum. I had Joust on that as part of a bundle of games. Wasn't my game, but I never played it in the arcades. Played Space Invaders and all that in the arcades, but that's what it is. So the first one, and then once he beats, so when he gets there, he's not the first one to find it. Artemis is, but she's found it weeks before, but she can never defeat the Demilich at the game. Artemis, Parzival turns up the first time, and he completes it because him and Aech used to play it for fun, just to when they were bored. So he had a lot of practice in it, so you could understand why he won it first time, not getting a clue to drive backwards. Really? It's that type of thing. So once he's completed it, and the only hint he gives is to Artemis is change sides, because when you spawn, the Demilich is always at one side, and she always plays the other one. Whereas because he always played H and he played the other one, he asked the Demilich if he could swap, and it says yes. So he swapped and won. So he had suggested to Artemis, and then she completed it because she'd been practicing because she'd been fighting it. Then when they got the key, it gave them a clue, but the clue wasn't to the second key; it was to the gate the key opened. And the first gate was they had to play through War Games as one of the characters. So they had to remember the lines, they had to give the lines, and they get extra points if they gave them with the right inflection and stuff like that. So,
wow.
So there's a lot about the gate, the movie in that. Hence the reason why you knew it was going to be a wee bit, because would they actually use one of the games within it? So I thought maybe they're going to change that. But the fact is, it's not so much they changed it. They took those two, combined them, and then completely changed it. So there's no Dungeons and Dragons, there's no computer game till the very end, and there's no gate with the movie references. They just made it a key you get by racing backwards. You see what I mean? So that's how they changed the first one. Then there was a second one, and then the third one. So you had the Monty Python was talked about in it as well. It was just, the book is so much detail. I know a couple of people who have read it says it's just like a load of lists of this and that, because he's talking about all the things Halliday liked. So it does.
Well, it is a phantasmagoria, or whatever it's called, of basically everything that exploded in the 80s.
Yes, in effect, and that's what it is. But because I was interested in it and I grew up, I found the book fascinating for that. I know one of the guys I used to have the arguments about the upcoming movie, was he wasn't as interested in all that because he thought it was a bit dry, because it was just lists of things in the 80s. I grew up then, so it was perfect for me. So I was okay with it. But the book is so much superior to that. And to me, what they did was they just made it generic. It was a generic computer action movie.
I would not say generic.
You could have seen the points they were hitting.
Well, I would say I
all the
understand
sci-fi
what
things
you're
they
aiming
mentioned.
at, but I would say it's more, hey kids, millennials born in the 2000s, this is what your mom and dad got up to in the 80s. It's kind of a checklist of that. For me, I did see a lot of subtle hints. So, the coins exploding. For me, that is Sonic. Back in the days when you hit an enemy, all the rings.
Not in the books.
Yeah.
Not in the books.
Well, it's not in the books,
You
but
look at
the visual
shot, and he's
Easter
running away
eggs
with
hidden.
the coins falling off him, and he's running away with the coins like blood. No, I could understand, like, when something gets killed, you can soak all those coins in. But if something gets wounded, it doesn't bleed coins. You see what I mean? That was a case of
these in the film are subtle Easter eggs to a lot of the video games.
See, that's what I was saying, that the book was very generic. It was a case of, here, guys, look at this, remember that, remember this. which they're doing now, it's all member berries.
Yes.
And I think that's what it was. They went from a book, which, yes, was about member berries, but it was all within context, to a movie that was member, Iron Giant, look, and Sonic, and Halo, and this, and there's that, and there's the Godzilla, and there's the King Kong, and it's that type of thing. Whereas Iron Giant was not in the book at all.
Yeah, but
So you had
this is also the split, and I can see where we go. Where the book might have focused completely on the 80s, whereas this is about the player community base a lot more. And the little I've listened to it, I do struggle with Will Wheaton as a reader, even though he does sound quite enthusiastic about this one. It is more. This is the community base. The film is the community base. What are they up to? Just like us, we collect. 4 of us collect completely different items, even though we have the same kind of outline. We have a lot of overlapping interest and everything, but for me, it's video games, it's Star Trek, it's all the stuff that I grew up with. It's the film,
Yes.
it's the stuff I collect. They're special and shall we say unique to me.
Yes.
But it's just like when she has Nosferatu, it's you have Ape-Man. It's a collection there, and Aech, he has, what is it? It's the
Thunderbirds.
the big, it's the Thunderbirds.
Thunderbird
the
2.
big rocket in the background as well.
Yep.
So it is that unique collection, and that is the evolution that we've done from the 80s. So it's essentially telling the story of, say, the 4 of us. If we did a Dungeons and Dragons table tonight and tried to play Let's Hunt the Easter Egg of Mr. Halliday.
Yeah.
So I like it for that aspect, but I do see, and what little I got in, I think I'm like 5 chapters in, it's very different. It's a lot more around the creator and Waithe than anybody else, really.
Yeah. But even within the movie, they make silly mistakes. Remember the bit in the movie where Parzival finds a key and he's suddenly becoming famous and people are taking pictures, and this big thing crops up and grabs him, drags him through a wall, and then the alien bit comes out, and then the suit disappears, and it's Artemis saying, you have to hide yourself, you have to become anonymous, after she's second on the leaderboard, because people know you now and you have to hide who you are. So she gives him Clark Kent's glasses to hide, and then the suit. And what is she doing? Walking behind him without a disguise on. Yet prior to that, she had a disguise, telling him because they're famous, they have to wear disguises. He wears a disguise and she walks behind him without a disguise, and nobody notices her. And you're sitting there thinking, did they actually pay attention to what they said in the movie?
I wouldn't say, okay, not Scooby-Doo movie, it's a Scooby-Doo script. Yeah. Essentially, as soon as someone pull out the Clark Kent disguise, yes, I've actually spent all the years I've been on YouTube, there's been plenty of people discussing this, that yes, Clark Kent and Superman, same character, and that tiny little change of putting on glasses, it's not exactly all of it, because Clark Kent punches down a little bit when he has the glasses on. He's clumsy. He has all these different traits, whereas Superman is like big, strong in your face. Everything is fixed. I'm here. Don't worry. It's all taken care of. So it's 2 different personas as well, which adds to the disguise. And it actually works. They've shown it. But again, it is... If you want to dive into immersiveness...
Superman's not the only one that's got that. Wonder Woman with Diana Prince. Similar idea. She just ties her hair back and wears glasses, and you're not meant to notice it's the same person. So yes, there's obviously the things growing up that the glasses are a filter so people don't see Superman within Clark Kent. So that's what it is. And obviously the same with Diana Prince. Whereas other ones wear the mask. The ones that wear just the wee bit mask, it's the same idea with Spider-Man and Batman wear a mask that covers half their face, or Alderface, whereas you have ones that just wear like the wee things like Robin or the Green Arrow and stuff like that, and you're sitting there thinking,
Like
these wouldn't
Green
hide
Arrow and
anybody.
Batman, just that thing. They had a high-end, very pricey technology. So they probably have something I had when I was doing the service, although it wasn't ejecting voice outwards. It was basically I could just murmur and
Aye,
just move my vocal cords, and everybody in my squad could hear me.
yeah, but
But it
that's
was
no
only for
good.
press. But they do have that as
I can
rather
understand the
sleek.
voice changers. You could have anything that just makes it a bit deeper. Yes, but I'm talking about their look. So in the ones like Robin or the Green thing, where they've only got the wee eye patch mask on, and yet nobody's meant to recognise them, even though blonde hair for like the Green Arrow, blonde hair. Um,
Yeah.
it just didn't actually work.
Some superhero costumes are better than others.
Yes.
But I mean, not everybody can be the Hulk. Bruce Banner and the Hulk, very
Yeah,
separate in terms of appearance.
but
But
that's what I'm saying. We accept that the secret persona and them are so different, are so similar that we accept that just putting the glasses on hides it because we understand where they're going from, so we don't need a logical explanation for it, and I'm okay with that. So, but it was the fact is in the movie she says this to him, and then he's floating
then
about
doesn't
with the
hide.
Clark Kent glasses on and that to hide who he is, and she's walking behind him without a disguise on. Yet she just says to him, "You should do that because we're famous now because we're up on the board." He's the first one up on the board, but she was the second. So she's in a disguise, tells him should be in a disguise. He's in a disguise and she's walking behind him without a disguise. And nobody's freaking out
Yeah.
until the two of them are actually in the bar. And when they get attacked by the Sixers, the two of them are in and people are going, "Oh, there's Artemis, and it's all about Parzival, but she's still on the list, and the people are wowing because the two of them are up dancing because it's the first two on the list of the top the fivers. Yeah, I mean it made zero sense. What she
But
says to
it's
him made a bit of sense, and then she completely ignores it for her.
yeah. But something that makes less sense to me is, yes, if you get shot in the game or killed in the game, you just need to technically create a new account and log back in. You have the real world knowledge of the ins and outs of the video game. So
Yes.
if your account, if your avatar gets killed in the game, it makes no sense because you just log back in. You still have the same knowledge. It's kind of if you play a video game and you die, it's like, oh, I tried this, and this, but that didn't work. And when I did this, the boss did something completely different. So clearly that was not the weapon I should have used at that moment.
Yeah. But see, also the fact is, the book talks about it, but it really doesn't go too much into it because you've got Oasis credits that you can use in the real world. However, why would you play in a game that you can build up all this for, and that's all your money that you get killed? That's why in the book they're talking about there's safe places, that there's no uh, player versus player combat, which means if you're there, you can build up all you want, and the businesses build all their. Because if you were in a place where it is a combat, a business wouldn't set up in the Oasis in there because they know somebody would just come in and wipe out all their money by
Hell
blowing up the
yes.
building. So there are safe places in the game, and the only people who think they can do it go to player versus PvP places and to earn some extra cash. However, in this movie, they're saying that you own everything you have is gone. Why would you go into a place where you can build up millions and then somebody could shoot you and you could lose the lot? Do you see what I mean?
I think there are rules that aren't explained. So there are games that I play that are like that. You go into the PvP zones, what you have and what you brought in, that you may lose, but you do have a safe stash in the safe zone. So you may not want to take the best gun, even though it might give you a super advantage. but you play the game for a month just to get that gun. So you're using it very sparingly until you have recovery for, say, a second one.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously you play that, and
Yes,
I find it so fascinating with game world economies of the value of how to build stuff up and how to make sure that you can recover and everything. And one of the games I love, although I haven't played it in years now, unfortunately, it's Elite Dangerous. It is called Elite because you have to be quite good at what you're doing. It's not just PvP. It's the environment, it is missions, it's everything. It's dangerous. But the ships, they cost an absolute fortune. And if you don't have enough to buy back your ship, you're literally going back into 1,000 credits, tiny little like wasp just going around like 2 planets going rather than doing 60 light year long space jumps.
Yeah. See, the thing is as well, and that's why I think these the Oasis would never work, because you say to people, right, come in, and if you do this, you can earn a lot of money. Oh, by the way, see, if you die, you lose a lot. And the money is real money in real world. Why would you go? That's like turning around me saying to you, right, let's go to the boxing ring, and if I knock you out, I get everything behind you. I get everything you own. Who would actually do that?
I'm pretty sure you. Well, luckily Ming is not behind me; he's in front of me. But
But you get the idea.
Have a hard fight.
But you imagine that.
Yep.
That why would we, any of the two of us, take the chance that all the stuff we've built up could be gone? Because if somebody says that to me, I'd go, no, I'll just shut my door. Thank you very much, and I'll stay here.
I already have this. You don't. But
Exactly. But it's that type of thing. If you were in the real world, it just would not make sense. And that's why the movie just sort of, it to me, it became a generic, oh, look, these people lose it. And so they just go to jump out the window. Surprise, surprise. They were very racist with that, wasn't it? The Japanese guy was the one, or the wee girl was the, hey, I'm a bit spoiled because I've lost everything. Look at me. And it's that type of thing. And I just found it hilarious for that.
You see, I saw that purely from the shall we say, what do they call it? You have to have this lens for gender and whatnot.
Yes.
You have to look. I saw it completely for the whole gambling aspect. As in the gambling addiction, the people that can't help themselves, they go to Las Vegas and they spend too much money and just accrue debt on debt on debt, and then they just can't stop. I saw both of them being those kinds of people. But I did have a question about the Asian guy. Why the hell is he sitting in an office playing a video game when he's supposed to apparently do work?
So, and the thing is as well, right, in the book they talk about how people, like, Waithe gets annoyed because his wee neighbour downstairs is a real woman. So you see her in this, but she gets killed. And her rig was the glasses thing, and she would only use it to go to church online, so she could be sitting in a big cathedral instead of going out because they couldn't go out and do it. I wish these two would stop their barking.
But
hold on.
Go ahead. Well, I'll try and explain it. I'm hoping you can hear. I do see the advantages of, say, augmented reality that Microsoft is working hard on at the moment. I keep forgetting what the glasses are called, or I think it's HoloSpec or something like that. You just type in Microsoft and Holo, and you should hopefully get it. I think they're working on version 2 now. I can see, for, say, an elderly disabled person that can't go down to, say, church, just puts on the glasses and sits at home in front of their own cross or something. Or if they happen to be a Muslim, it's like a prayer rug out, and they can see, although they can't be there physically with them, but they can kind of bring that in. But I also see the other side of it, and this is having read and seen so many dystopian things. I mean, John Mnemonic we reviewed last year is where cyber and the augmentations and everything takes over too much, and it basically just makes people antisocial.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
already have that trouble, but
Yeah, but
you
even
already
even
see it on the street. The people glued on their phones, and they don't look up. They see nothing.
yeah,
Yeah.
but can you imagine if they're playing a computer game with a haptic rig on in the street and they're running shooting? What are they going to do when they need to dive out the way if somebody's shooting? They dive right into the road and get knocked out. That's why the part where they're all walking about with them and running down the street with, and it's a case of it's just nuts because like the bit where you saw the ridiculous part where he's coming down and you see the guy playing tennis. Right, so he's basically he's jumping around, but he's in this small caravan and he's jumping around. Then you've got the girl with the pole dancing. So isn't that funny? Big girl doing pole dancing. That's all it was there for, to laugh at. But it made zero sense to that because if that was her persona online, she wouldn't be actually doing the pole dancing because she physically couldn't do some of the stuff that you would do in game. It's the same as these guys running up. You see them running up the street past all these people who are just out walking. They're running up the street like that, and then you see them in the game shooting and diving by, and you're sitting there thinking, really, that makes zero sense because in effect, there's roads, there's cars. They show there's cars, and they're running up the street. So all they need to do is step in front of a car as they're running, and then bang. That's what I'm saying. In the book, it's none of that at all. They only did it in there just to say, "Oh look, isn't this cool?" And that's the unfortunate side. That's why I was saying it became very generic because we want to show you that people are actually physically doing the stuff you're seeing on screen. What the hell's the point of a 3D haptic rig if you're doing it physically?
I see it as it was a loose idea of what they managed to put into what was it, Free Guy.
Yes,
but in Free Guy, the real world is actually the AI world, and not the other way around. But
yeah.
it is still that whole running around, things explodes and everything, just interfering with normal life. It shouldn't happen. And again, I don't think there is a viable technical solution, even if I had all of Elon Musk's money plus Twitter, that I could figure out a way of implementing seamless wireless contact things that people can run around with haptic suits across London or all over the Bonny Highlands in Scotland.
Yeah, they have something like that in the book where somebody wears a haptic. It's clothes, but they're actually built in with the like there's sensors. So it's basically, but it's not a case of as I'm walking, the computer walks with me. It's a case, so he's running. Where it's a case of it's all to do with sense. So let's see the bit where you see Artemis running her hands up and you see the lines going up as if she's touching him up. Next minute he gets a boot and he goes, "Oh, that." It's a case of then he gets punched and he falls backwards, and you're sitting there thinking, "Are these people have got zero concept of that?" Because if you're sitting with a haptic suit and something hits you, it doesn't throw you back. It's meant to be there so you could feel the impact. It's not a physical impact.
I think I see what they wanted with it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It was all about, look, isn't this cool? And it was also the part when he's in the haptic suit and the car, the van turns, and then you see him falling over when he's talking to Artemis, and you're sitting there thinking, makes zero sense because
yes
if
and
you're
no,
if you're in a haptic suit, that's one thing, but in effect, what they're saying is things outside the game impact you inside the game, and things inside the game impact you outside the game.
But this is where I see they were trying to go with the haptic suit, because I've had a few of these experimental, shall we say, gloves and elbows and diodes that you can connect, and people have come up with some really, really weird solutions One of them is basically, if you remember, was this 80s and 90s, where you could strap diodes to your ab, sit there and drink beer and watch a film. And yeah, it was literally chucking you in the belly since you were straight. They've had solutions like that, but I think the scene you were referring to, where there is the sensitive moment, he must obviously have turned up, although this is me reading more into it than there is, but he must turn up the sensitivity for the light touch, and therefore what would have been like a bullet shot or something, rather than being just a light tap, obviously would have been a complete smack. So I can see that.
The objects in the books, they describe the haptic suits. The haptic suits are there to give you the sense of, like, if somebody touches you in the arm, you could feel the touch. If you get shot, it basically, you know where the impact came. But there is no thing. Like, I'm wearing a suit, and it's a haptic suit just for the chest. If somebody in a game fired a shotgun at me, and I had it even up at 100%, right, I would feel the haptic suit would give me the pain, but it wouldn't give me the pressure. It would actually throw me back like an actual shotgun blast would do. That's what I'm getting at. They're implying that the haptic suits are so great that you'll get thrown back if you get shot in it, as if it's actually physically shot you, which is nuts. That's what I was saying about how it was all a case of, look at this, isn't this cool? But it didn't make any sense. That's all I was meaning about that aspect of it. Okay, does that make sense, what I was saying about that? Because you understand what I'm saying. The fact is, in the real world, if somebody turned a corner and your haptic suit flew to the side, you in the game threw to the side.
Well, so in theory, everyone would have to be in the simulation.
That means the guys playing the games in the Halo outfit running down the street. So if they bump into somebody, they're going to get thrown off. So in the game, they're going to get thrown off. So it makes zero sense because there's roads they have to cross. There's cars beside them. There's people on the street.
In theory, the entire thing would have to be a simulation.
Yes, exactly.
For them to be acting with it, yeah.
Yeah. Whereas in the game, you see him getting booted and he goes, oh, and you can understand that aspect of it because it's the pain sensors that you suddenly go, but then he gets punched and he flies backwards in his van and you're sitting there thinking, that makes zero sense because you cannot you can have the physical pain of an impact depending on how good the haptics it is, but you can't have the physical pressure of it pushing you back. That's what I was meaning about that aspect of it. It just the book's a lot better for explaining how the different suits and all that, and how even if you're in a haptic rig where it's got the floor part, which you could purchase one, it's in effect it's a big ball you're running on, and it actually runs. So as you're running, it saves you having to actually do that. But most people don't play with that because there's also ones that you can sign up to do the gym in the book, and it basically, because if you set it, it won't allow you to unset it for a set amount of time. And the only way you can log into the game is if when you log into the game, you do your gym workout. So it's effectively you say, I need to lose some weight, so I'm going to use the gym. I'm going to use the gym app on it. And if I set the gym app saying I can't go in the game unless I've done an hour's workout, when you log in, it says you need to do your hour's workout or else you're getting nothing. And the only way you could do that is you can't switch it off unless you wait a week or 2 weeks to switch it off. But because there's you set it up for that, and it's a good way of describing it. But most people don't go into play game to actually do exercising. So the bit where you see them doing the jumping jacks and all that, it just looks crazy. And as Jim says, the guy where it was sitting in his office, all these other ones are playing tennis. You see them making all the moves, the guns. Yet he's sitting in his office and nobody noticed that he was on a planet and he got killed. Yeah, all the other ones you see them running and they're actually running down the street. It's that type of thing, how it makes zero sense because it was all just to look good. Look look at this, look at that, look, these guys are running up and they're all Halo guys. Isn't that cool? That's what I was meaning. It was all to do with looking cool rather than being logical.
Practical.
Practical is, that's a really good word, when it is what is lacking. It's practically. I believe, because I do have one of the higher end, or have had one of the higher end virtual reality sets. But like I said, the flats here in UK are so tiny, and the games I played, fantastic concept. Beat Saber is one of them. Very addictive. You're basically having two lightsabers, and you have boxes coming at you, and it's music playing. It's like boom, 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 and you have to hit them certain angles, different beats. But you do need movement space. You need a lot of movement space to be able to do that. I believe in the future that will become more available, but it will be for places like the American market where houses are really, really big, where you could have
even in the book, they were talking about the stacks. That's why the stacks were there, and they talk about the stacks. So, like a caravan that they had there was like maybe there would be 3 families living in that caravan because of overpopulation, and yet you see them drive when he's climbing down. You see somebody living out the back of a van, yet he just climbs into the. They don't even mention about why all those cars are all piled up. It's because nobody can afford to run the cars because of the cost of fuel. So they were all dumped. They were all stripped out as much as they can. Hence the reason why when he crawls through, it talks about him finding this van in the space, and he had to rig it up so it's got lights and batteries, and how he needed to actually set it up so he has to charge his batteries, which keeps him fit, and and it's all to do with that, and it's why it's his safe space, because nobody knows what it is, because if somebody found something like that, because of the space, somebody would move into it.
Yep.
Yet you've got ones where somebody's actually playing tennis in a flat, and they're effectively in the book. It tells you probably a whole family would be living in that one room because of space, and that's why you've got the stacks sitting on top of each other, running out of space. Yeah, there's so much. It's so different. It makes the book. That's what makes the book better, because it's consistent. And the only reason I'm surprised it doesn't keep that consistency is because it's Ernest Cline was part of the writing team to help with that.
Well, I think there was a lot of creative decisions as well. If you look at the film poster, the film itself, it's very stylistic to a certain kind of genre, I would say. And sadly, I've saw the film before I've actually completed the book, so therefore I will always have these images, these people looking like this. I prefer, when I discover a new book, that there hasn't been a film, at least not yet made about it, so I can get my own image, and then I can disagree a little bit with the film. Okay, I didn't really see them being that way, and whatnot.
And I quite understand that, because it's happened before with books with me. Believe it or not, when I first started, after I first left college, I did data input, and when we were doing data input, everybody would sit with headphones on, and it was just because we had a big list of things we had to input, so they're quite happy for you to listen to music or whatever as long as you had headphones on. And mine was audiobooks even back then, that long ago, 95, my first data input job. So the books I was listening to on tape from the library were the Sharp books.
Oh,
And
nice.
the narrator, William Gamanara, actually brought all the characters to life. And see, when they said they were going to make the Sharp TV show, I was so looking forward to it. And then I saw how they were making it, and they had to cut it down from the 500 troops to just 5 because they couldn't have all these extras in the background. So it was cut down, and I could understand why. And but they tried to keep it as much to the books as possible. It was a very cut down version, and it was not as bad as I
what you're
thought.
saying is you've been disappointed with movie adaptations since the 80s.
Yes, but so if anybody's actually watched Sharp and enjoys it, I tell them to read the books, Bernard Cornwell, I think it is, does the Sharp series. The books are absolutely amazing, and read them from the beginning. The first 5 or 6 books are superb. They're gritty. He understands his Peninsular War battle. So cavalry, artillery, infantry, squares, cannon fire, firing by muskets and rifles and saber attacks and lance. He understands all that, so he does, and he can wield it all in within the story. It's just superb. However, with this as well, because Ernest Cline was part of the writing team, I thought they would have been able to do that, but I
Still,
think
the film is
tidied
2 hour 20.
Yeah, but to cover even a part of the book, they would have had to make it 3. It would have been a Lord of the Rings trilogy book type thing for that one book, because there was so much in.
Interesting since you mentioned it, because there are 3 keys. Would
Mhm.
you have liked the idea
Yes.
of key 1, film 1, key 2, film 2, key 3,
No.
film 3?
I would have I preferred key 1 and gate 1 for movie 1. Key 2 and gate 2 is movie 2, and key 3 and gate 3, and
The
final
finale.
the finale is the final one. Although they could have made it into 4, because you could have had the finale separately.
Yeah, the trouble is you have to follow, or well, yeah, actually, I will say
In effect,
you have to follow, because the Hollywood recipe that they followed for a lot of years, I think since the 60s.
yeah. But
is
I
a
was actually
slow
wrong there. It
start,
could only be 3
introduction.
movies. Because the third gate, once you complete the third gate, that's when you get the prize. So you don't need a 4th movie with the final part. But yes, I would have preferred 3 books and have it key and gate, key and gate, key and gate, and finale. That would have been a lot better if they'd actually kept it as much as possible. Which means, yes, the Dungeons and Dragons part. Christ Almighty, they've done things like the Dungeons and Dragons in Warehouse 13.
Mm.
They allowed them to do, they did a Dungeons and Dragons episode type. So they could have easily had the characters playing through a Dungeons and Dragons thing, even if they were talking over it and explaining it as they're going ahead. Then they could have done a movie part like they did The Shining. They could have had something like that for war games, and then the second one they could have had The Shining, and the third one they could have had, because they've done things like that. But the problem is they tried to crush it all in. It's unusual. It's just one of those things that was just unfortunate.
Yeah, sadly, it's a thing that happens far too often. Don't know who was told me. He might have been the Critical Drinker or someone, saying that there are hundreds, tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, of these books, scripts, and everything, and someone has just snagged for no money at all. It's not exactly rights. It's some kind of like pre-agreement that yes, if something's happening, I'm being involved in it. But
Yeah.
they don't get the right deals. They don't get good script writers. People don't care about it. And Hollywood, since what 2008, has been playing it safe with reboots, remakes, relaunches.
Yep.
I don't recall many new films in the last maybe 15 years.
Yep. And I was so looking forward to this one, and that's 4 years ago.
Yep.
2018 it came out, and I was so looking forward to it. And
And it
so
technically falls under the category of a reboot/remake, because the content was already out there. It's an adaptation, but
it's an adaptation of the books, but it's the thing is, it's been already out there in a different format. But that's like say taking
for
a
me,
comic
this is
that's
what
not
Harry
being made.
Potter films after the Harry Potter books.
No, that would be like taking Guardians of the Galaxy. It's from a comic book. I had never even read the Guardians of the Galaxy, and then making it into a movie. But it's the same principle as Superman, Batman, Spider-Man, that they've done in the past, the Hulk and everything. So it's nothing new. They've taken it, so it's but it's a new story that nobody's ever done. Guardians of the Galaxy. Then they make it. I was never a fan of Guardian of the Galaxy, the movie, because in effect, I didn't care enough because I didn't know about the
I
property.
didn't know, but they did caught me with the music.
No,
Because
to
it's
see
what I
because the music
recognized
just
as
to bother me.
classic.
But I have watched them, and I thought they were okay, but they're not one that I would say I need to rewatch that. I need to rewatch that. Whereas like Donner's Superman, easy, watch that multiple times. That type of thing. It's to do with that. However, the same idea. They've got a book which was quite a popular book, and they've made it into a movie. And then what they do is they slash it because, well, we want the movie, but we don't want that in it. We don't want that in it. We don't want that in it. We don't. What the hell did you want the movie for then? If you don't want all the parts he's put in, what they want is the concept of the movie. That's it. The rest of the stuff they'll fill in.
These days, this is more true than ever. Our favorite hate topic, Wheel of Time.
Mm-hmm.
They basically just went, "Oh, that sounds like a cool name. Oh, we don't need to read books. It's like just give us the names and a couple of locations, and who's fighting who.
Yeah,
and we'll take care of the rest." And it's like, really, Wheel of Time is like literally on par with Tolkien's books.
Yeah.
In terms of sold volumes and everything.
Mm-hmm. And I still say they would have been. They could have got away with what they did if they turned around and says it's within the world building of the Wheel of Time. However, it's a different age. So it could be the fifth age. So it's after these Randall Thor and Moraine are all people of legend from the previous age. So yes, they might have actually brought the one power to being the one power. So there's not the side N and side R. There's just the one power, and they all feed from it. But something else has happened, and it's caused this. They could have got away with that. Just don't use any of the names. They just have a similar lore, but they don't need something else has happened, and it's just made it similar. But it's very similar to because the wheel turns and the wheel weaves. They could have got away with that, but they
I
wanted to use all the
agree
character
to
names
that,
and
but
destroy them.
I'll have to flip it on the other end. We know what's coming this autumn with Lord of the Rings, where they're doing basically an STD, Star Trek Discovery. I mean,
No, I think you were right the first time without they actually starting it. Discovery,
They're basically doing that because STD is supposed to be 5 years before Pike and Kirk and Enterprise and the original series. And not only did they screw up all the technology they had, not only did they screw up the entire timeline, not only did they screw up the entire concept of Star Trek, which is it is a crew. It's never a single individual. It is a crew, a lot of people that work together to make something work. Yes, there are a few figureheads, but you will always find them leaning back for support somewhere else, to someone else, knowing that someone is coming for them. I saw nothing of that in the first two seasons I watched of it. It's like it was just, what is it Gary calls it? Space Jesus.
Yeah.
One character, one solution, one person fixes it all. How do you go in just like 5 years? It's one person fixes everything. Now we need 10, maybe 15 in the extended cast to build family, unit, hope, curiosity, exploration, the whole thing. Because something I definitely did not get from STD was sense of exploration, finding out stuff, learning about new things. Just wasn't there.
And I don't think you'll get all they want to use is the tags. Just so, look, people, Lord of the Rings, come in and see it. Oh no, we don't want to actually have Lord of the Rings. We just want you to come in thinking it's Lord of the Rings. And once you've paid the money, you can go away and no like it. We don't care as long as we got your money. Yeah. We don't care about repeat money. We just want your money now. It's the same as like Judge Dredd, Carol Urban. I loved it. I went 7 times to see that in the pictures.
I like the
Do you think
grittiness
anybody's
of
going more than once to see any new movie? Look, this is the part I was talking about. Look, this is how. There you go. That's a t-shirt. See, I went for my Ogden Morrow look with a shirt, with a t-shirt.
It should have been a plain T-shirt, but
I know
I
it
will
should have been a
say
plain t-shirt.
you pass. You pass. You do need the glasses, though.
And the hair's just down here instead of up there. So, yeah, that was the basically that I can't see with those glasses for the distance there. My reading glasses for up close and personal because I'm learning sequel, relearning sequel. So, but that was basically when I had the t-shirt on and I noticed that, so I just shoved the shirt over the top of it to give it me the Ogden Morrow.
There are a few things, even though I don't think I will ever go big chief on anything Ready Player One, unless maybe the DeLorean, which is why okay, if your film has a DeLorean in it, you automatically get +3 to charisma. Doesn't mean +3 to your 1 out of 10 score point.
See, I would have said the
+3
same
to
if it
charisma.
had Godzilla and King Kong in it, but not this movie.
You see, it's up there. I won't reveal my rank just yet, and I think when she was saying she wanted a not too long of a stream this evening,
Yeah.
so maybe we should try and pick her score.
What we'll do is we'll look at scores just now. Yeah, John, you're too bloody right. They want brands. That's it. To provide content. That's exactly it. They want somebody to come in and say, "Oh, Star Trek. Oh, Star Wars. Oh, Wheel of Time. Oh," but the rest of the thing they don't care about. As long as you've watched it once, that's it. They don't care. As long as they can get you in just based on that, and they don't care if you watch any more, which is crazy. TV shows, you want people to keep coming back. Movies, they don't care because once you've watched it once, they've got money from you. They don't care if you come in 2 or 3 times.
I would like to object, but I know it's not something Hollywood is hunting for anymore. It is what becomes the cult classics. It may not have had such a success during the cinema release, but 10 years later, everybody and their grandmother is literally, "Oh, I want that toy, I want that collectible, I want that collector set, I want that DVD set, I want this poster." Why aren't they hunting for this anymore? Because that is literally the biggest part or market share for entertainment.
I quite agree. Yeah, definitely. And it's crazy to do that. Because to me, I wish I had kept all the toys I had and I would be collecting them any chance I got now. But unfortunately, we ain't getting that chance anymore, are we? So, but yeah, I mean, like for instance, there's a box opening coming in Wednesday with this, all these plates.
Very nice.
I've got a couple up. On there.
Oh, yeah.
And this top shelf.
Oh, yeah,
I've
they
got a
look
couple of them
cool.
out. They are absolutely beautiful. So they are really good quality. So they are. And
Excellent.
this is going to be
A
for.
box.
I'm going to do a box opening, but they'll still be shown Wednesday, Saturday. Another box, and it's
Cool. Funkos. Ooh.
Funkos.
Yeah.
I ordered them, and they're so cool. Can't wait. And the only thing I'm going to mention today is look what I got.
You can't go wrong with a flask. You can never have too many flasks. That's cool.
But I'm so looking forward to that opening that box and on Saturday, before Saturday, so I can show it on Saturday, and then there'll be a box opening for later on. But the plates is going to go up on Wednesday because we're not going to be here next week because I'm down in England working away. So let's do scores for this just now.
Scores on
So
it.
we basically scores out of 10. What you liked about it and what you didn't like about it. Who wants to go first? When?
I'll go first. Because I knew nothing about this. I knew nothing about the book. You know, I hadn't had any exposure to it other than all of the Easter eggs and the references and things that obviously are put in this film, which were really, really fun. So as a completely uninitiated person, I enjoyed this film. I thought it was, we watched it. We thought it was very entertaining. I love the concept. I thought the actors that played the leads did a great job with everything, and all the actors involved I thought were great. So yeah, that was probably my favorite things about it. I don't really have a least favorite thing about it because I don't have anything really to compare it to, but I would just say that yeah, I can't really give it anything really negative other than maybe it just, I didn't have a lot of frame of reference really for the gaming elements of things. Obviously the movie references and the popular culture references definitely. So I would give this probably an 8 out of 10. That'd be my, yeah.
I would recommend you at least get hold of the Audible for it and listen to that and see how that is.
And not want to punch
there's not as much gaming in the part they're talking about gaming. They explain the games even if you don't know them, but it's more movies, TV shows, comics, books, music.
Yep.
They explain a lot more and they use a lot more of that within the book rather than gaming. So
yeah, and even
there's
with that,
still
I
games.
still
There's
enjoyed
still
it.
games within it, but they talk about the games as if somebody's played it before. So you could see where Ernest Cline's obviously had a love of these, and he talks about them within his book, and it's obviously it comes through. But it's not a big part. The game is just as big a part as the movie, as big a part as the comics, as big a part as books, as big a part as music, and it's all brought in together of someone growing up in that time frame. So, but that's not too bad. An 8 for that one. But I would definitely give the book a go if you like this. So who's next? Alec, Jim? Alec.
Okay. I'll give this an 8 out of 10. It had a cracking soundtrack to it, but in a way, I think it felt a bit rushed. But it was like spot the Easter egg through it. So many references and all this and that, and you just can't keep track. And there are scenes where there are tiny little things, right, that are references back to like how to put it, genres and all this and that, and you got to keep spotting them. So for a Blu-ray, yeah, you can rewind it over and over again, right? But with watching it in the cinema, it's like it's there one moment, it's gone the next. But the story just felt kind of rushed all the way through. Yep. However, I've got a bit of a fact here that I read up ages ago. Apparently, they wanted Gene Wilder in the film.
Really?
Yep, they wanted people from the classic movies to do bits in it, so they could have actually had the interaction part as if they were playing the a Gene Wilder, so it could have been Stir Crazy or it could have been Willy Wonka. They wanted them to play a part talking to these as if they're in the game.
Actually, if you don't mind me saying, they wanted Gene Wilder as James Halliday.
Was it? I thought they'd actually, when they were talking about that, they wanted to
Yeah.
actually have.
The reason why they wanted him as James Halliday is because it harkens back to Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ah. See, I thought
because
when I heard about that, I thought it was because they were wanting to film parts where you could immerse yourself in the movie. Because in the book,
Yeah.
there's parts where you immerse yourself in the movie, like they did with the Shining. Even though they changed it all, there's in the part in the book they did that, and I thought they wanted it so you could talk to Willy Wonka, and they would have just done a wee bit of CGI.
I would have loved to have had the factory tour, or well, there's probably unlikely since we're a small channel, but if there's a developer out there with a good idea for VR interest in future, Willy Wonka factory tour, winning the golden ticket and getting go through that, and
we're talking about the Gene Wilder one, not the
the Gene Wilder one, but we're talking about the blueberry chewing gum that basically makes you blow up like a balloon.
Yeah.
But you get it as random, so it's like a murder mystery rather than. That would be an amazing adventure.
Definitely.
Well, can I just end it on a little point? Is that the whole purpose of this film is that when I watched the first trailer, they redid the tune to Pure Imagination, right? And this is what the film is about. You're exploring a world of pure imagination.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really good point.
Yeah. But, however, I think they overloaded it too much with the Easter eggs. I haven't read or listened to the book yet, but I will give it some.
The book has got a lot more, but because they talk about it, you don't miss it. However, in this, they did actually say it's designed to be a case of, oh look, and it's designed for people to go back and rewatch it to just find Easter eggs. Because see the bit where you see them all coming over the hill, and you see that it sort of pans over with all those things, you can look and you'll see characters here and there. You might only see them for a second, but that's what it's designed for. When they go into the dance floor, you look around, you'll see other ones there.
Yeah, it is. It's just spot the Easter egg, especially with the Easter egg reference. And the way they were saying at the end, coming towards the end of the film, of the game Adventure as being the final one to unlock, you had to find the dots, to get to win the game. And that is the first ever Easter egg.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So
see, the thing is, this movie or this book was designed for a movie with Easter eggs in it.
Yeah.
Because it's a gunter. You're an egg hunter and Easter egg hunter. So the fact is, the book is all about hunting for Easter eggs.
Yeah.
Within the whole decade of movies and thingy. So it does work within the context of it. However,
they still overdid it because
you're right. On screen, it doesn't work as well.
The proper way of Easter eggs, even in video games, they're there, but they're not that many of them. There's a lot of it. The only game I know that really had hundreds of them is World of Warcraft. And they had everything from modern day reference to old school classic references. But it could be a random NPC you walk past. Paris Hilton. In the game, in World of Warcraft, it was in the second expansion, I believe, is a character called Harris Hilton, not Paris Hilton. Just tiny stuff like that. Eddie Izzard is buried within the game, but if you're not paying attention, you might just walk past this character. And he's actually doing stand-up within the game if you happen to go in at the right minute of the right hour of the day to see him actually go into the pub as an NPC, just tell a few jokes. It's not audible, it's just text read jokes. So you have to stand this close to him to be able to read text bubbles, and then he just walks out. And it is his kind of humor. There's hundreds of such references throughout World of Warcraft, which they buried really nicely. Even the dance moves are references to classic dance moves from MC Hammer to Peanut Bully Jelly Time, the advert that was running in America. That was unfortunately one they missed out on because that advert ever only really ran in America, whereas a lot of the other stuff was global. But it is fun to find these things, but I love it when it's scarce and you come across it at random and you go, hang on, look, it's like there's a big battle fight there. I got the bazooka running. I'm ready to like boom everything. I was like, hang on, recognize that thing to the left. That is what a good Easter egg is, and that's what they did even back in the 80s when the first Easter egg came out.
Yeah.
And other developers realized, let's bury something cool in here. It's not easy to find, and it's like one game, one Easter egg.
Well, the one thing is that I know they've done the second book now, and they are talking about the sequel to the film. But that
Which is unfortunate.
When they get round to it. But Spielberg might not be directing it.
Yeah,
I don't think so,
it'd be
because there is no second book from Ready Player One series. There's Ready Player Two.
Yeah,
it's
was
not
written-
a sequel.
It's not a sequel. It is basically somebody has written Ready Player Two. It's a fanfic where they combine Ready Player One and Armada, his other book series, and combine the two of them together. Call it Ready Player Two, but you are playing Armada within the Oasis. So that's what they've done. So I've read Ready Player Two, and it is just a combination of both Ready Player One and Armada. So,
well, I just want to see if they're going to go ahead with the sequel. If they don't, then it's still a standalone to me in my books.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. So, Jim, what about you?
Well, would you like my commentary first or my score first?
Either or. It's up to you.
Yeah, it was an answer requiring, well, it's a question requiring an answer.
Yeah, the answer is either or.
Sorry, that's triple logic. So if I go either, so that's one, either, that's both, and then an or.
Right.
See,
I'm gonna answer.
A double negative would be a positive, but a triple negative is still a negative.
Yeah.
I'm gonna answer in a minute.
Right. I'll begin with the commentary. And it's echoing a little bit what Alex was saying. It's sadly enough, it feels empty in terms of a storyline, but it does have so much member berries. I kid you not, and I see the subtle references. You may call them Easter eggs or like the stuff you want to find. So like the spilling of the coins, the use of items, the memorabilia that they actually have within the universe, which is like, oh, I would have loved to have like a model of that or things like that. It is feeling very much like I'm walking through Comic-Con. It's like, that's cool, that's cool, that's cool, and my wallet is saying, you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It feels very much like that. They just chuck everything they had into it.
Yeah.
Storyline, I'm okay with, but it is not a strong one. And I doubt if I actually sat down and went through the book that I would find that tiny twig which they try to wrap all of this around. Soundtrack for me is fantastic. And as I said, there's a DeLorean in there that's automatically charisma +3. Doesn't mean that it's +3 to the 1 out of 10 score, like I said earlier. It's just like it adds the charm, it adds the nod. Because one, Back to the Future is so iconic, and a DeLorean is literally the only car I ever felt like, if I ever get a car, because I like the design, it would have to be one of them. I have never ever
see it
seen
in the
another
book.
car.
See in the book, he's got a DeLorean, which has got the Ghostbusters paint job on it.
Hmm.
I might actually pay a little bit extra for
Yeah,
that.
so I mean, so
Pretty
in the book
trippy.
they do things like that. So you've got the
That's
DeLorean
trippy.
with the Ghostbusters paint job on it. It's that kind of thing. So they do. There's a lot of member berries, and they do mix and match and bits and pieces within it and stuff like that. So it's it's quite nice when you're reading it. And believe it or not, the book's got a soundtrack, because when they're talking about things, they talk about the music that is
Yeah.
playing when he's walking down into this place to do this. He talks about certain music, because there's one of the parts where the keys is all about Halliday's music he likes, so certain songs, and he says this is playing in the background as he's doing this. So there is soundtrack if you know what the song he's talking about. Even I knew what some of the songs were, so it was not as bad. So it does the book has a soundtrack as well. So there you go.
The soundtracks do play a part, and I know you, PJ. You say you don't pay that much attention to the music and everything, but if I say Van Halen's Jump, but also Living After Midnight, when I was crunching most of my schooling and it was literally coming close to midnight, I was one of those kids that I had some cheesy 80s rock and roll bands, the poodle hair, the everything, those kind of bands. And I was just crunching through physics and maths and biology, chemistry, history, whatever it was I was studying. That music in the background was constantly blaring, so it kind of stuck.
Do you know it
Just
was
as
constant? See, when I was doing that, do you know it was constantly blaring in the background? Star Trek and stuff like that. It basically it was TV. It was on the background. I never listened to music. It was TV on the background when I was doing that.
for me, when it came to studying, or I need to learn, or I even do it to this day. Tomorrow, I have a 1.5 hour presentation where I have to talk to a lot of people. But the next 6.5 hours, I will just be writing documentation. And during the time I'm writing the documentation, it's going to be good old classics from the 80s. Bon Jovi, Van Halen, Def Leppard. That too. It's going to be Metallica.
Twisted Sister.
You had me at Van Halen and Metallica. Yeah.
Yeah, Twisted Sister is going to be in there as well. That's just going to be on in the background when I'm just sitting there and it's going to writing. And it's like correct typo.
I do the same thing, Jim, when I'm like writing myself. I listen to music, but I listen it to low. But sometimes the music really takes you away, or if it makes you feel like you want to get up and dance or something. That's
but if you do that, get up and dance.
Yeah, it's distraction.
It's distraction, but it is also a reset of your mind, because you just bog down. You go up, you do something, and then you come back to your seat, and it's like, now, boom, you go 10 paragraphs.
And another thing another thing I like about listening to music is sometimes when you listen to the lyrics, and sometimes they give you inspiration.
Yep.
That's the thing.
Although not Chicago's inspiration.
No.
Oh, you're my inspiration from Chicago. That was 90s, I believe.
I'm talking about those little lines that you like hear, and you just write them in, but you change them around. And also sometimes music does tell a story. I know.
Yeah,
that's the best thing.
Really good one. Sadly, we did lose Meatloaf recently.
Yeah.
Those were amazing stories that he was
Power
singing.
ballads, I think they were called.
Yeah. But let's not dig too deep into the soundtrack. But that is literally what this film is made to do. It's the member berries. It's like, you remember these songs, you remember hearing them, boom, that's in. Here's the visual, flashy stuff. You play this video game. Okay, now we're talking 2018 graphics, whereas this was 1986, where you were playing Super Mario.
Yeah.
So it's basically you had 8 colors, 8 pixels. That's what you had to play with. It's that difference, but you can translate those images through each other. So yes, it looks super fancy. The first Master Sergeant in Halo, trust me, he's not looking what he's looking like in Ready Player One. That's like 10 computers rendering how he looks like in 2018, whereas back in, I think it was the 90s that Halo actually came out. I might be wrong. There will be fans saying, "Oh no, it was 2002," but it was that early. It was basically just vector graphics like Lara Croft in Tomb Raider. It's like very square, blocky, but still the greatest. There's quote saying the greatest processing power is up here. You see someone painting a rough image, and your brain will automatically translate that and make it just look absolutely amazing. And this is literally the strength, but sadly, it's all what this film is relying on. It is the strength of the member berries, if you put it like that. It's basically like the gummy bears.
Yes.
It's like as soon as you drink it, it's like, wait, it's amazing. But being very objective, it felt empty. It felt really empty. It felt that they had so much there that I could not hook onto. It's like I was being distracted by so many shiny things and not given any substance. So therefore, I rate this 6.5. It's very enjoyable. I definitely rewatch it time and time again. But is it the greatest? Can it compare to Jaws? Can it compare to?
Oh hell no!
No.
If we put it against another animated one, Megamind. Megamind is one of my favorites because use of story, use of member berries, because basically it's Superman versus a villain from Kryptonia, and use of
It's
music.
basically Superman versus what's the computer?
Superman 3 you're talking about.
No, the basically Megamind is basically taking it's a play on the one that Lex Luthor turns into Brainiac. It's effectively Superman versus Brainiac. That's what Megamind is. It's superb. It's super funny. I love Megamind. I love Megamind.
That is a perfect execution of, hey, you remember these things. And then it has the cheek, it has the humor. I'm surprised it's a DreamWorks and not a Disney, because this is how cheeky Disney used to be. It's like, oh, you're a villain. Listen, you're a villain, all right? You're just not a super villain. Oh yeah? What's the difference? Presentation. And then you have Guns N' Roses just blaring out in the very most triumphant way. It's like, that is flawless execution of bringing back memories, forwarding the story, and everything else that's in between. It's just really great.
Yeah.
The film does has its flaws, but not to the level that Ready Player One does. I really enjoy Ready Player One. I like the visual style. I like all the Easter eggs I can pick out everywhere.
Mhm.
But it is not something I would say put forward to an award. That would be,
Yeah.
if you hit 8 and above, that should probably be considered for an award. It's definitely rewatchable, and as I said, anything about 5 and above, I'll watch
I'd
again.
say visually, it did win some, I think, a Saturn Award or something like that for the visual effects or something along those lines. I know it won some awards, but yeah, visually, it is a beautiful piece of artistic
Mhm.
work. But
That, I must admit, is probably, I can't deny, it looks good. It looks really good.
Especially to the
The,
animators.
yeah, but for
Mhm.
me, what the highlight of it, I think, is just the visuals. It has got some nice member berries in it.
Mm.
However, the one thing I disliked about it, I've mentioned things that I've disliked about it. The one thing I disliked about it is the way they implemented The Shining and then changed it,
Yeah.
including the zombies and stuff. And what the hell? Because they're even going, The Shining never had zombies, but there's zombies in this one. Oh, he says he's just used it as a tip. And no, it's in the book. They talk about The Shining and stuff like that, but it's a case of really, and it's just a case of why couldn't you have just continued with The Shining movie as part of it and not change it? Why did they have to change The Shining?
Yes.
It's almost like The Shining's just not good enough. You have to have zombies in there.
Well,
Really?
it's just all I can say is that's Steven Spielberg who would really want to remake The Shining in that
Yeah,
scene.
in effect, it was a case of, well, I didn't really, The Shining's not good enough to actually keep people's attention. And in the book, it kept your attention. The 3 movies they mention in it keep your attention with the 3 gates and stuff like that. I would definitely, it's definitely not one of my favourites. What I would give this, surprisingly enough, is a 4. It's one that it's there. It's only gets a 4. It's because I loved the books prior to
yeah,
seeing this.
which is fair enough.
I
Yeah.
think if I hadn't seen and hadn't read the book, I think it would have been a higher graded because of the visuals look good in the member berries. However, there was so many things I thought that makes zero sense. Like as I said, them running down the street, and then it flashes to the game, and that's how they're running in the game. And it's a case of really people running down the street where there's cars playing their
I
game.
know.
Or
I
then
know.
within the next scene, they've got a guy sitting at his desk. You see him playing the game and he's jumping about, shooting, but he gets killed. He loses everything. Then he sits up in the middle of his work
I know.
and then takes his leg and goes to jump out the window. So in effect, all those people around him didn't know he was sitting playing a game. Yet they just showed you all the people physically doing what they're doing in the game. It made zero sense because they couldn't keep it consistent. It's either or. You can't have both. So he's effectively sitting there just as if he's on his computer, playing his game and jumping about the same as all the other people you see doing pole dancing, tennis, playing golf, whatever online. However, he's sitting in the office and nobody noticed. Really, and it's things like that just annoyed me because that's why I don't think it would have got. Even if I hadn't read the book, it would have gone any higher than maybe a 6 because things like that annoy me. But the thing that annoyed me so much is the changes they made from the book. It is they literally decided they're just taking the bare essentials. It's in the game called the Oasis. The basics is you need to find 3 keys and then you need to beat the big company who's got all the money so you can win. And you use these characters. And that's the only thing. The rest of it changes.
Yeah. But can I just mention one thing? I do feel sorry for the people who have to work for IOI. You know, slaves to the system.
The indenture servitude,
Yeah.
yes, that is mentioned, and that's what
Yeah.
Parzival uses to bring it down, because
Yeah.
he uses it is to get into it. In the book, in this, it's Artemis who does it, and it's because she got caught. Whereas in the book, Parzival does it, but he does it deliberately to get in there to get things to bring them down. So it's basically the book is a lot better. Yeah. So she got dumped in there, and it was just so happens that they managed to Sorrento. And in the book, Sorrento's just the front end of the company. He's just, but it's almost like in this, he's running it, but he's also part of the cogs in the machine. So is he running it, or is he just part of the cogs? You kind of have them both. And they don't know.
Can I just raise one more thing? It just goes also to show that the dangers of being in virtual reality, because there's a message at the end saying they turn the game off on Tuesdays and Thursdays so people can have a life outside.
Yeah, as Ogden Morrow says.
Yeah.
He didn't like real life, but that's the only place you can get some decent food.
Yeah.
Because reality is the only place you can live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it is, and even in the book, it's a lot more adult. The book's a bit more adult because they talk about the part where Artemis turns out and goes, "I don't want to see you again," and he's got a full immersion suit, full haptic rig, and he buys himself a sex toy doll. And it's a case of how people get drawn into even weird things like that because they've got a full haptic suit and they can buy a full immersion doll.
Can I just raise one thing?
That's what he says.
No, Red Dwarf.
Yes, Red Dwarf did it. Remember
Gunman of the Apocalypse.
Apocalypse, yep.
Yeah.
But it's basically like that. So it's a case of you only use it for sex. So they basically bring that part as some people only use it for that. Same as some people only use it to sit in their couch and go to church, or some people use it just to actually go and meet their friends on a VR, so they can all sit around in somebody's man cave and sit and play games against each other. But they're all just sitting in the one room. They're all sitting separately, like we are. But instead of actually on the screen talking to each other, we've all got VR on and we're all sitting around talking to each other.
Yeah, you see, I don't think, as amazing I have seen the VR concept that we have today, this is something, and I think it's probably a personal preference, but then again, I was part of the early internet culture when it was BBS servers, IRC chats, and
Cello Internet, the Internet Explorer,
and
Cello,
Netscape. AOL, you got an AOL CD with literally every magazine
everywhere.
They were great, like coasters to put your drink on those.
Exactly. Well, we're talking about those days. That's where
I know someone who's still got an AOL account. She still uses her AOL account.
I didn't even know they still were out there.
They're still out there. Somebody bought them over, so if you've got an AOL account, it just transferred with them.
That is actually respect. That's
I
really
remember.
Respect. But I'm talking about where are we? We're 2022. Someone born in 2005 is about to turn 18. They have not experienced life without a smartphone.
Correct. Yeah.
They've not experienced the time of where you had to use the dial-up just to get into the internet and all.
Yeah.
And
or when you actually download a picture, it went.
It went line by line.
Yeah.
Or else you had a floppy disk. It had 1.44 megabytes.
I know.
That held all your documents. I held all your documents.
That was so wicked.
Can I just mention one thing about discs, right? I did like that reference in Red Dwarf, the the movie they just did, where they found Holly's backup drive.
And the big,
yeah.
Oh
fact-
yes, I love
yes,
that
that's
one.
right. That was the fact. The big enormous 5.5-inch disc. It was 5.5-foot disc. It was a 5.5-inch flop. Sorry, it was a 5.5-foot floppy.
This is why I never got the translation between, because the big 5.5-inch or 5.25, I think it was,
5.25 and 3.5.
they were really floppy, whereas the floppy disks, the 3.25, the 3.5,
were in a
they were
plastic
not
case.
floppy.
They were in a plastic case, but the disc was still floppy if you took it out.
The disc was floppy.
When I worked at Motorola, they had 12-inch discs, floppy discs. 12-inch floppy disk, and they had at one point one left that ran their program. That's when they actually decided to shut down their fab number 1 because their last disk they couldn't transfer it. They would have cost them that much to replace the machinery that takes this 12-inch floppy disk that it was cheaper to just shut down the fab.
Now, I just want to raise a question. With this film, right? If it were, as Jim was saying about like real life, how many gigabytes, terabytes, or whatever's after that it would take to run a game like that?
Oh, yeah, you'd be into the what is it? What's after terabytes? Petabytes. You would be into the petabytes.
Yeah.
You would have servers with multiple petabytes of data. It wouldn't be gigabytes or terabytes. It would be petabytes.
Well, we have it already. We would be talking about companies like Google or Facebook.
And the thing is, your bandwidth, you wouldn't be somebody sitting in 17 megabyte bandwidth. You'd be talking about the ones that are sitting in 250 megabyte bandwidth or above to run it, that type of thing, because of the amount of data just looking around and seeing, and all these characters charging over the hill.
Yeah.
It would come down to the stability of the connection as well. So even if you have the speed,
which they talk about in the book, they talk about how he's in the stacks and things are a wee bit grainier, and he's got these old rig, and then when he gets the money and he moves to the city, gets a small apartment near a place where he can literally just plug straight in and get a high speed connection. They talk about that in the book, how he's aware that the better the speed, the better the quality of the visuals and stuff like that. But I would definitely recommend the book. If you like this, you'll love the book. However, if you're not an old boy, you might not understand the references in the book because it is all about the 80s. They talk about and explain it because Parzival doesn't understand it initially, and he talks about learning about it, and that's where you get all the lists because he talks about learning about what Halliday liked within it.
Yeah.
But I think it's definitely still one of my favourite books, even after this movie. It's one that the characters didn't annoy me to the point where when I'm listening to the book, that I picture these characters, that doesn't bother me because the Artemis one in it, I prefer the book one, and the Artemis here, I think, is just a mediocre one. Lena Waithe is great as Aech, but the Aech character in the Oasis is she's better as a character than she is in the movie. But the girl who plays Aech is very close to the real life Aech in the book. She would have played if they had a guy playing the Aech in the Oasis, I think it would have been a bit more seamless. But because they made Aech into a male orc, and it's a case of
even so, because I try to literally disconnect Twitter completely. All the idiots on Twitter.
No, but it's the fact is...
No. All the stuff they're talking about, oh, you have to see it from this way and this way. It's like, no. I have something new in front of me. I just want to experience it.
Yeah, but what I'm
Don't
saying
want to
is,
see it from that angle or this angle
yeah,
or that angle.
I'm just saying that the character in it, even though it was it's just the H in the book, the one in the Oasis is a far more interesting character. So it's not the case of acting. Oh, I've never seen the Shining. I'm scared, and ooh, and it's almost like it was dumbed down, and that's not H in the book.
No,
And when you saw
that's not
H out
age.
of the book, and you saw Leah Waithe playing H, she didn't come across as dumb as she was in the game, and that's what I mean. She played the great H out of the game, and I wish they had actually had the H from inside the game.
Carried it through. But that's
Yes,
what I was trying to aim at is, even though we get to see them at the end, the ambulance scene, Simon Pegg's character doing the Liberian and all of that. What
and the
they put in
curator
the
isn't in the book, by the way. The curator is
what
not in the book.
yeah, but what they put into the film, the type of characters they seem to be, they did not seem to step outside of them. It wasn't the greatest story or like the most accurate, like what you're describing, but it still seemed to be, you got to see the entire, and again, the buzzword of the last 5 years is diversity.
Oh yes,
It's a
Right,
very
see, before
diverse
we go any
film.
further with the diversity, when I know you have to dash.
Yeah, I'm starting to flag a little bit. Sorry, guys.
We're not going to be long anyway, but thank you very much for still giving us some of your precious time.
Well, thank you very much again for another great stream. Again, I haven't rewatched this film recently, but we did watch it, within probably the last 6 months or so.
Yeah,
But yeah, this was great fun.
definitely. And I'll see you Saturday. Hopefully, might have news by then about being an old grander, but
Let's hope so. Fingers crossed,
crossed.
toes crossed, eyes
Yeah,
crossed,
Everything
not
crossed.
sure.
streams crossed.
Yes. I ain't afraid of no goats.
That's right. That's right.
But thank you
All
for
right.
joining us anyway.
take care.
You have a good
Okay,
night.
lovely boys. Take care.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
See you later.
Good night.
Bye.
Right. So, gents, we'll finish off in fact next 5 minutes or so. So that to me, it shows that the movie and the book are different. However, it doesn't mean that either are bad just because one doesn't like it, one prefers it, and stuff like that. I've obviously come into it because I had read the book and I'd multiple times. Yes, when I say read, I mean audible. Somebody read it to me. But I've definitely, the very first year I got this, I listened to it about 7 times. So it's how many, I'm trying to think how many hours the Audible book is. I need to go into my Audible account to check that. I'm
Might
sure
be
it's,
up toward the 10-hour mark.
I think it's actually more than that. So I do. Library. I think it's more
I
than that.
had a point. Yes, there is a major drawback with this film. Most films you watch, if I watch Armageddon, I want to see Independence Day next or something along that line. The epic, over the top, America, F yeah. We're gonna demolish the planet or like win the day, whatever it is.
Sounds like the film Moonfall.
Yeah, but this film is for me a complete standalone in a void.
Yeah.
Although it has so many member berries, I don't get the sense of a flavor of what film would I like to watch next. It doesn't give that to me. It gives me a nice sense of nostalgia. It gives me, if I need to pass 2.5 hours, this is the film. It is not the first film on the list if I want to spend, but we got Mad Max, we got Jurassic Park, the original, 1995. We have Hackers. There are so many films to pick above it, but if it's just to waste 2.5 hours because, say, you're meeting up with your friends, you finished work and you're not meeting up until like 8 o'clock in the evening, shower, grab a quick snack to eat and some drink, watch this film, have it on in the background. That's what it is. But it is not something I would put myself, say, I have a nothing to do Sunday. I put this film on around, say, noon. And then it doesn't give me a direction of what I want to watch next. Sadly, it's for all it has, doesn't.
Yeah. This is basically, the movie is one of these ones, because the book is so precious to me. I don't care enough about the movie to rewatch it unless I was rewatching it because we were going to review it. It's not something that I'm even bothered about. I'm just I can't get into my Audible account for some reason. It keeps on saying I'm a non-member. Yeah, I know I'm a member because I've got a membership. It's on my phone, but it's not letting me sign in. Yeah, it's a really weird one. I think this happens every so often because audible.com and audible.co.uk get mixed up.
Yeah, it sounds like you got. Sorry to be technical, but it sounds like you got the stale cookie. So if you do Control F5, it should refresh completely.
Yeah,
Right. I just want to say something. I still got the original paperwork, right, within the disc. And I've just saying that.
Ready Player One.
I didn't. I didn't see Beetlejuice somewhere in the film. I might have to spot it.
Oh, Beetlejuice is in there.
Yeah. I know the Gremlins are in there, but it's just, I think I should keep this,
Yeah, definitely. I would. I'm just looking for some reason, it's just not letting me log into my Audible, which is really crazy. Yeah, I was on it the other week, so nothing's changed within it. It's just decided that, nope, we're not letting you in. How's that? I think it's an issue with Amazon. I need to actually go through, find my last Audible book that I bought via my Amazon account, and because it's linked. That is really annoying. How bad is that? Not funny.
Do you know
As
what
far as
I'm
it's concerned, that it's there.
Do you know what I find funny about this on the back of this DVD case? It says about the film reviews, right?
Uh-huh.
The cinematic spectacle, Kiss FM UK, 5 stars, Daily Mirror. You'll want to watch it again and again, 5 stars, The Sun.
Yeah. There it's there. Thank Christ for that. It's right, man. It's the co.uk. It keeps on, for some reason, trying to divert me to the co.com. It's because of my VPN. That's what it is.
Unfortunately, I don't have VPN, but...
Aye. Ready Player One. There it's there. So it is 15 hours, 40 minutes Audible.
Bloody hell.
Right, and it says it's book one. So there's Ready Player Two. Ready Player Two was out in 24/11/20, and I think that might have been the one I'm referring to. I thought it was actually, Days after winning the Oasis founder James Halliday's contest, Wade Watts makes a discovery that changes everything. Hidden within Halliday's vaults, waiting for his heir to find, lies a technological advance that it will once again change the world and make Oasis 1,000 times more wondrous and addictive that even Wade dreams possible. When it comes to a new riddle and a new quest, the last Easter egg from Halliday hinting at a mysterious prize and an unsuspecting, impossible, powerful and dangerous new rival awaits, one who'll kill millions to get what he wants. So in effect, he's got Ready Player 2 out. I've not read it. The Ready Player 2 I've read is a fanfic one. It's a completely different one. I'll
Let's
need
hope
to
you
add
don't
it to
do
my wish
Ready
list
Player.
just to give it a go.
Yeah, let's hope you don't do Ready Player 3. Otherwise, you're pushing the
Well,
boat
the
out.
fact is, Ready Player 1 is self-contained. I think Ready
Yeah.
Player 2 is just going to be the typical.
Yeah,
It's the
because
exact same. It's just
yeah.
a bigger bad guy and a more stuff.
Yeah, but they only released Ready Player 2 because of the film.
Yeah,
That's
and
why I
it's
did it.
yeah, it was done in 24th and the 11th, 20, 2 years after the movie, and
Yeah.
it's in effect. Why would you do that? Because it can't actually go through and relearn because he just says Halliday's into the 80s and we've learned everything in Ready Player 1. So what can he learn in Ready Player 2? It just doesn't make sense.
That's why I think this is going might work as just a standalone movie. That's all.
Yeah.
I will say the description you read out just now of Ready Player 2 sounds a little bit, not too much, but it sounds a little bit like a video game that came out. This must be 2017, maybe 2016. It's called Horizon Zero Dawn. Humans have been reset to zero. They're nomadic tribes, matriarchal tribes, I will actually add to it. And the enemies are robots. Robots, not exactly dinosaurs, but kind of dinosaurs.
Mm-hmm.
But there are malicious and benevolent AIs behind it, and you have to discover the storyline of this.
Yeah.
And it sounded a lot like what you were describing there, that there is something bad hidden. And we are talking, even if we just go Ready Player One, the film, we're actually talking about AI. It is evolving despite it is portraying dead characters.
It's definitely not a book I'm looking forward to. But the worst part is they've changed Ready Player One's artwork to the movie artwork.
I know.
In Ready Player One, that is
well, at least I haven't heard Ready Player One being remade into crap and then re-narrated by the producer of the TV show, like what happened with Wheel of Time.
Yeah.
Adding 3.5 hours to the audiobook.
Yeah. Well, I know that's the fact that they've added the thing, mate. I downloaded all my audiobooks. I'm not getting it changed. No way on earth am I actually getting mine changed. So I downloaded it, and actually, I won't re-download. But there's the original artwork for the book. Let's get it fired up. It's very basic. Not denying it's very basic. That's it there.
Less is more.
Yeah, that is the basics thing, mate. And to me, that is a hell of a lot better than.
And especially you got the key within the one and all.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the first one you showed me, the 80s, very early 90s.
Yeah, that's the new artwork. Sorry, that's the new artwork. That type of thing.
Same on the Blu-ray case.
Or like that.
Yeah,
you know I mean, so that's what they've changed it to. This type of artwork. To me, the original book cover, even though it was plain, was a lot better.
But again, you're talking about what they call concept artists.
Yeah,
that definitely were born after the Millennium Bug, if we put it that way. But since we all remember the Millennium Bug, because I was on shift call being paid ridiculous money because everybody thought the world was going to end.
Going to end, yeah.
Because it did changes from 1 to a 0. It's like, no.
Yeah.
I tried to explain it to my company and say, it's like, no. We've actually run the experiments across all our estate, everything we have. Look, boom, changes, nothing breaks. There's like, no, we need everybody on call across midnight.
Yeah.
And I just went, okay.
We got paid handsomely.
Money.
We got paid to be on 8-hour standby over the new year. Even if we're not in the work, we got paid double time for being at home.
Oh no, I got paid a month's salary to be in the office because I
No,
was
that's
team
what I'm saying.
lead.
The ones that were called to be in, but even the ones of us that were sitting at home waiting for a call, we knew wasn't coming. We were getting double time for being at home. So in effect, for the 12 hours I left work or over the day, I got paid double time. So I got a full day's salary, 24 hours for doing nothing for a whole day.
Yeah,
It
no,
was great.
they wanted me to be in the office,
Oh, there was a
but
couple of guys went into the office and they were getting triple time plus 2 days in lieu, so in effect 5 times the salary. They were
no,
getting
no,
2 days off for the one day they
because it
gave up,
was
and they got 3 days the triple time.
because it was the New Year's Eve, Millennium New Year's Eve.
Yeah,
They just went, okay, if you cover New Year's Eve across midnight until 8 o'clock in the morning, we'll give you a month's salary for that night.
yeah.
I just
Well,
went, it's
the
like,
guys
I'm
that were
not
working with
stupid.
us, were told if they come in from 10 o'clock till 10 in the morning, a 12-hour shift. Over that, they would get 2 days in holiday to cover the morning they were working, and they would get triple salary for that one day. So they get 3 days salary and 2 days holiday for effectively
Doing
sleeping in
nothing.
the office.
Well, we weren't sleeping. We actually,
No,
well, we had
they
a
were
good
basically
location
they
and good
basically had a
windows.
party. They had a party in the office because there was
Yep.
nothing to do. Everybody knew there was nothing to be done, so they just basically everybody brought a bottle in. They had a party in the office, food and a few drinks. Not a lot because obviously some of them had to drive the next day,
Yeah.
but they didn't get drunk. But they had a party in the office.
We had a rubbery band, party hats. Well, we had all of that. And it's like, okay, it wasn't my chosen or preferred crowd to spend like a momentous occasion, like a millennium shift, but I got paid a month's salary, and I knew I had already demonstrated a year and a half earlier, nothing will happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I showed them on their system, on their live production system, nothing's gonna happen.
But I know people were actually just saying, "Come in just in case,"
Yep.
on the off
And
chance.
I did not complain. I didn't get time off, but again, a month's salary or a couple of days off.
Yeah.
It was literally like a balance question. It's like,
Yep.
why you say cover this? Okay, I'll do it.
Definitely. So, ladies and gents, thank you for joining us. We're going to finish off there. Alex, have you got anything to jump out there?
Right. Okay. Keep your eyes peeled, keep your ears open. There might be a special announcement broadcast through our channel on Sunday.
The script, there'll be a link into your channel in the description once we're finished there. So, yep.
Yeah, and remember to subscribe to Alex's channel,
Yep.
FFSI.
FFSI.
FFSI. Foxtrot,
Perfect
Foxtrot,
sake.
Sierra,
Yeah.
Indigo.
Perfect sake indeed. But we'll be back on Saturday for Let's Talk Geeky. There is going to be a box opening for the wee box there, but there is a box opening for my plate, which you can see a couple of them up there already. My John Wayne plates.
You got quite muffled because you were going across.
I know, because it was a my John Wayne plates. You can see them there, one there and one there. I've got two of them there. The other ones are up at the top.
Should we tease? I know most of us have watched it, but what about for next time? Because I know there's schedules and conflicts and everything. What about John Wayne True Grit for a review on the next
We will, but when we come back the first Wednesday, so not next Wednesday, the Wednesday after, we're going to do a Hal Needman review. basically that'll be Cactus Jack, Cannonball Run, Smokey and the Bandit, Hooper, and another few others.
Well, we're
But-
talking classical martial arts, amazing cars, mustache,
A comedy.
A comedy,
comedy. We
Oh,
got
plenty
it.
of comedy.
a Western comedy.
Yeah. And so many guest stars.
Yep.
Oh,
So
yes.
we'll be doing that when we come back in 2 weeks' time. So that will give us plenty of time, 2 weeks to actually watch all those things.
I've seen them all.
So far, and
Yeah.
I've got them in my iPad ready for when we
Nice one.
go. So that'll be for when we come back. Then we'll do a John Wayne one as well after that.
Howdy,
But-
Pilgrim.
Next week, nothing on next Wednesday, but there'll be a box opening for my John Wayne stuff.
Hmm.
Saturday, we're going to be up, and before Saturday, I'm going to open that box, but I will show one or two of them online, and then the box opening will be up on the Sunday.
One thing I'd like to ask, are you going to be around on Sunday at all?
I'll be getting ready to, because I'm travelling down to Southampton and Monday morning first thing.
We're not
So
going
I'll
to do it
not be
later,
around. I'll not be around on Sunday.
I
Okay.
should not have anything to do, but I am doing double cover for the next 9 days. So that might include weekend work. So I cannot say if I'm available or
Okay,
not.
well,
But
keep your eyes peeled in it, because
Definitely.
what's going to be happening next with us, it's a big thing. That's all I can say.
Looking forward to it. So, ladies and gents, thank you for joining us. Stay tuned on Saturday and Sunday on the FFSI. See, I can do it without the when I try and rein myself in. So,
you see, I just dropped off the I because back in the day, like I was talking about the IRC channels, and it's like FFS. That everybody should hopefully know what that acronym meant.
Yeah.
yeah,
And see, I'm YouTube friendly, unless you know what it means.
flip. Anyway, thank you for joining us, ladies and gents. So I can say thank you and goodbye, Kelly, Cam, John. Who else? We've had Nearporeal life form. Always
Yep.
get that part wrong. I'm terrible with that. And who else? Because Colin was definitely in.
Yeah.
Darren was in. Who else was on it early on? Colin, Jim, John. I think that's us got covered everybody. It's actually posted in the chat. Anybody that's not posted in chat, thank you for joining us. Remember, like, share, subscribe, do whatever. I keep forgetting to ask people to do that, so maybe that's why my numbers are not climbing. But remember, I'm not old, I'm classic. Me and the guys, we're going to be going. So, bye, guys.